Okay, before I go on with this bottle, I just want to show you what's possible with polymer clay on glass. This is almost all polymer clay. Everything but the wings. Yeah, everything but the wings. And the trim on the top and the bottom, those are paper clay. Just because it's cheaper. Sorry to say that, but the face, all of this wrap around the clock and the pine cones and this top are all polymer clay. As you can see, as long as you wrap the polymer clay completely around the bottle, even if it's got open work and is lacy, whatever, as long as it meets itself and wraps completely around the bottle, then it will stick. You don't have to have any glue, don't have to have any other type of bonding agent. As long as it wraps around, it will stick. This is just another example. As you can see, the top and the bottom wrap completely around the bottle, so it will stick. On this one, the stones are resin. These charms on the side, this one is resin, but this one is polymer clay. Okay, this one has swelligant for the colorant on the bottle. It's got the dyes for the drips, which you can tell is a really nice effect. Okay. Back to this one. Now, of course, these are metal gears. Okay. I really enjoyed this one. Alright, these are metal gears also under UV resin. Alright. So I've got this polymer clay, this black Primo. The black Primo. This is the 1 pound block. I chose that because A, it's easier to see on camera. And B, it helps to provide a background when you can see the polymer clay through the glass if it's black, as opposed to this one where it's white. I don't know if you can see that, but okay, where it's white. So this is a pattern that I already drew out, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow this pattern, but I'm not going to add the stalactites at the moment. So I'm just going to cut along the pattern. Of course, neatness doesn't count because it's your pattern, so you can change it whenever you want to or wherever you want to. Okay. Now this one is going to wrap around the back and the sides. Up to this point. Alright, I'm going to add some stalactites. Some stalactite top. Okay, on either side. And then I'll continue along the bottom. This is going to be layered because that will help with the effect that I'm going for. Is kind of like a cave top setting. Okay. Now the fact that it doesn't meet up really won't matter, because that is where we're going to add the stalactites. Okay, sorry about not having the stalactites on camera. Sorry, the stalactites on camera. Alright, now I'm just adding some rocks, let's say, just to fill it out just a little bit more. Now I'm going to take my color shaper, and I'm sorry, some of y'all have asked. I've had this color shaper for 10 plus years, and I actually bought it at Michael's. It is actually a color shaper brand. It says so right there. It's worn away now, but it used to say that. It's a silicone tip on this end and a brush on this end. The brush is so you can wipe away when you get those little spurs of polymer clay, like when you're using your needle tool or that silicone tip. Okay. One of the things I did was I scored a little bit on the stalactite areas. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of detailing on that rock surface. just to give it the look that that rock isn't exactly flat. Okay. Then just taking my larger ball tool, again, I'm just going to give it a little bit of detail. Okay, and maybe a little bit to the background area. I'm going to round those cut edges with my thumb just a little bit. Now back here where it's gessoed, the polymer clay won't stick as well. Okay. That is the bottom all the way around. Although we may add another rock to the back. Okay, now on the other half of this pattern, you'll notice that I did make it a little shorter, a little narrower, and that was just to save on polymer clay. Okay. Now I want this to meet in the back, but I also don't want it to come so far down that it covers up that image in the back. Okay, but I do want it to cover up above where it's painted. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to pinch it up above where the bottle starts to curve. Okay. Okay, and then I'll just pinch it down where it's really close to the bottle, and then start to tear it away. We will fill that in if necessary. Once again, I'm going to pinch it. I don't know how much of this you'll be able to see. Don't worry, we're going to add more to the top. So wherever it tears, it's just where it tears. Okay. Again, don't mind where it's seamed together at the back. Okay, now I'm just going to roll out again, and I'm just going to cut this bottom layer. But I'm going to do that with my scissors first. Sorry, I am not on camera. Again, don't worry, it doesn't have to be exact to your pattern. Okay. Then I'm going to roll out some more black clay, and I'm going to cut that out before we do the top. Okay, right now I'm going to add some texture lines to this bottom layer. Trust me, it's really hard to get this to where I can see and you can see. And I'm going to switch tools. This is just a metal knitting needle. Okay, now go back to and I'm just going to continue this around, which isn't much. A little bit on the back. And it really doesn't matter if they're straight or not. It all just adds to the pattern. Okay, now you can decide what type of pattern you want on the surface up here. We've got a big air bubble that I gotta get out. And as you can see, I just pressed that down towards an edge to get it out. Okay, I've got another one right here. Okay, now with my ball tool, I'm gonna begin making a few circles all the way through the polymer clay. Random sizes. Just to give it a kind of a time-worn look. It will also let a little bit of the air out if you've got any air pockets. Sorry for being so close to the camera. Working on something like this can be quite a challenge. Again, don't worry about being precise, because we've still got more to do. Okay, so I've done a little dotting around each circle that I made, and then I did the top and just did a continuation of these wave type patterns, and then on the cap I just did a dotting pattern with my large ball stylus. I did use my razor blade and cut through the polymer clay where the lid seam is, so that after it's baked I'll be able to remove the lid. Okay, so we've got it to here. Okay, now I've got these molds, and all of these molds are listed on my Amazon shop. The link will be listed below or above or somewhere. The seahorse, I've already gessoed those, and these are resin. They could just as easily be polymer clay. I just did the resin and they were in my stash. So same with this one, which is just the I believe it's listed as coral on Amazon. And then I've got this one that I could not find the exact match on Amazon, and I actually think that this was from AliExpress, maybe. And these are paper clay, and again, just because they were in my stash, you could just as easily do them from polymer clay. And no, I don't let them dry in the mold, although you could. Especially like for this one with this long tail, so to speak. Okay, so there's that one. And then I've got this one. Again, I could not find the exact match on Amazon, but I've got that mold too. And I believe this one came from AliExpress too. So I will try to put the links below for the AliExpress ones. But this one I'm going to do in paper clay, although you could do it in polymer clay once again. But my polymer clay is a little firm. So, the paper clay is quite a bit cheaper. So I'm going to do this in paper clay because it's going to go right on the corners. So I want it to be pretty bendable. So I'm going to do this fluted pillar right here. And I'm actually going to do 2 for each side because these aren't quite long enough. So I'm going to do 2 for each side. And the kelp is going to kind of go around these pillars. And some other. Okay, so let's get going. Okay, I'm using the DOS modeling material, which I believe is a paper clay because it has paper fibers in it. As you can see, I've already placed one of the pillars down, and all of this polymer clay is still unbaked. I'm using this fluted pillar. Okay, I'm just gonna press the paper clay into the mold. Keeping it as flush as I possibly can. And controlling where the edges are. Okay. Now, I'm going to break it away from the mold, so to speak. I'm going to start from this end. Just rolling the mold back. Okay. Now, it will require a bit of straightening. But remember, these columns aren't the focus of what we're trying to accomplish. So, the perfection of the result really doesn't matter. That being said, I'm gonna try to get this bottom edge as straight as I possibly can. Alright, then I've got this 3D matte gel from Finnebar, and it's a brand new container because I already went through the other one. It is really, really sticky stuff. And I mean sticky. I try to avoid getting it on my hands whenever I can. Okay. Now, starting where I placed the other one, because remember, we're trying to make these look like pillars that have been at the bottom of the ocean. So, they would be a bit banged up and stuff. Okay. Then we'll make the last one. Okay. Only take out enough of the paper clay or modeling material that you need. And like I said, you can do this with polymer clay too, because this stuff really starts to dry quickly. Now, it does take overnight before it dries completely, unless you're doing like we're doing and putting it in the oven. Okay, now on the other piece, I did have to cut off a bit. So let's try right there. And like I said, it's so difficult to try and work on this where you can keep it in camera and you can see it. Okay, the next thing, I've just made myself a little roller of aluminum foil that is heavily textured. I'm going to use that on the bottom of the bottle where it's supposed to be rocks. Now you want to turn the piece where not all of your texture is going the same direction. Or then it will look fake. Now remember, we already put some texture in there, so you don't necessarily have to go over that area. Okay, and I've done the rest of the bottle already. I realize the black is rather difficult to see. Okay, and I'm not doing the stalactite area. Okay, now the next part is fairly simple. I'm going to press some of my textures into the clay, and then I'm going to remove them. I just want that place in the clay so that when you glue it down, it has somewhere to set. Okay, and you can't really see it on camera, but it is there. It's mostly on this bottom layer. It's so that this coral will lay flat and not be standing out proud of the glass. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to take one of the seahorses Same thing. Just gonna press the bottom of his tail in. Okay, there you may be able to see it a little bit better. Okay, now all of your embellishments, whether they're polymer clay, paper clay, or resin, they should already be baked if they're polymer clay. They should already be firm and dried if they're air dry clay. And if they're resin, of course, they should be set up, because you want them hard so you can put pressure on them. Okay, so just taking a little bit of glue. I'm going to start with the smaller pieces. Okay, now I'm not worrying too much about the glue sticking out right now. I'll clean that up when they're all done. These little tiny ones I'm using where the bottle has a little bit more of a curve, where you wouldn't be able to put something like this. Okay. Now, the larger shells, I use the word loosely because they're just molded shells. Of course, you could use real shells if you've got them. Okay, I'm just going to continue on adding these randomly. Now, one of the things I'm taking care not to do is I'm not covering up where the holes are. Okay, and you may even want to put a piece on top of the lid if you want. Now I just took a brush and cleaned up the globs of glue that squished out. The residue on the polymer clay really won't matter because of course we're going to paint that. Okay? So, seashells all around. Now, I didn't put any seashells on the back. That's where we're going to do most of the other decorations. Because, of course, on the front, you want to still be able to see through it to the image on the back. Okay, and now it's finally time to bake it. The glue will bake just fine. The air dry clay will bake just fine. The only reason I'm not putting the coral and the seahorses on is because I'm going to put some texture paste over the back of the picture. Alright, so we'll do that after we've baked the bottle. So, in my countertop oven, I will have to lay it down. I'll bake it for an hour at 270. I've got 2 oven thermometers to check the temperature. You should not bake polymer clay unless you've tested your oven to make sure the temperature is right, because ovens are never right. You can bake a cake when the oven dial says 350, even if the oven is, let's say, 250. Even if the oven is, let's say, 275, the cake will still bake fine. It'll just bake faster. So you'll have to pull it out quicker. But polymer clay needs that temperature to be right on the mark, or it won't cure. It won't bond properly, and it will be brittle. It'll break. Even on this glass bottle, it'll break off. So, baking it correctly is very, very important. Now, right here where we've got the paint sticking out behind the pillars, leave that there until after you've baked the piece. Then we'll scratch it off. We'll use our craft knife and get rid of that. So, baking for an hour, 270, 275 for an hour. Okay? Once it's baked, I'll be back. And now it's out of the oven, all baked. And I'm going to use this TCW Light and Fluffy Modeling Paste of Crafter's Workshop. And this is my absolute favorite modeling paste. And I've just got a little palette knife. I'm going to try to get it literally everywhere on this back of this image. Alright. It needs to just be a little bit thick. Okay, this video is quite long enough, so I really think I'm gonna make this a two-parter, or if you want to see it that way, a three-parter, since we did the kelp in another video. So I'll come back, paint the bottle, add the kelp, and I'll add a few of these Art Alchemy melange. They're the little pebbles that come in different sizes. There's some really small ones in there that I'll add for some bubbles. Alright. So, if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. That would really help me out a lot. The seahorses have already been gessoed, but I'll go back and add some gesso to the texture paste, to the pillars, and to, well, to the whole bottle, actually, except for the exposed glass parts. So, come back for that. We'll paint the bottle, we'll add the kelp and some bubbles. And I believe that's it. So, like I said, please like, share, and subscribe. My social media links will be listed below. Bye for now.